Warning, the following episode contains descriptions of nightmares I once had about harming children. If you have a sensitivity or are triggered by this, maybe skip this video. No one, nor children, were never actually harmed, ever. I don't know how to say that right. No children, nobody was hurt, ever. These were just nightmares that occurred in the depths of my twisted, cruel mind, okay? So nothing ever happened, no bad stuff, but descriptions of nightmares. You know, I don't know how else to say it. When I left work, I don't know, my mind was kind of a mess. A large part of me did not believe, you know, I just couldn't believe it, right? But when you grow up with this time bomb thing and something resembles a time bomb, it's very easy for your brain to go, oh my gosh, it's happening again. And you panic, right? You go to a weird place inside. So I don't remember the drive. I remember stopping at the pharmacy and nervously buying like 3 pregnancy sticks. It's the first time I'd ever done that. And I arrived and Raven opened her door and she looked kind of different. You know, I hadn't seen her in maybe 4 or 5 months. She looked down at my hand, which was nervously holding the 3 pregnancy sticks, and she giggled a little bit. I said, here, you know, what do I need to do? She says, just relax, it's okay. I couldn't relax. I remember pacing. I looked out the window. I just, you know, what's it gonna say? What's gonna happen? What's it gonna do to my life? Oh my gosh, you know? This can't be happening, right? It just can't. So she comes out of the bathroom a little bit later, and I'm like, what? What does it say? What does it say? She's like, Bishop, it takes a minute. Can you just calm down? Do you need a drink? And I was like, okay. So she set the pregnancy stick down on the counter, grabbed a glass, put that on the counter, grabbed a bottle of something brown, something strong, and of course I just gulped it, right? So I set it down on the counter, an empty glass, and I looked at Raven and I was like, you're not drinking with me? She calmly reached over, she picked up her pregnancy stick, she looked at it, and she says, no, this thing says that I can't. Right in the middle of this little pregnancy stick was a tiny little blue plus symbol. And I didn't know what the plus symbol meant, right? I had seen the Simpsons episode.
Baby? Pirate? Oh.
No, wait a minute. Pirates are wild.
We are pregnant!
I said, Raven, how could this have happened, right? Like, you told me, like, how could you have not known? Like, okay, so before we go any further with this scenario, I gotta share Raven's story. So here's Raven's story, okay? Once upon a time, Raven grew up in a very small town. Guys, my city here, Grand Rapids, Michigan, we have about 200,000 population, like on paper. 200,000 is not a lot. It's not a big city by any means. And it's probably a lot lower than that because with the state of our economy, things are so expensive here that people are fleeing. And we might be down to 175K, maybe even 150. But the place where Raven grew up was called Lowell. And Lowell was a tiny farm town, population of 4,000. Like a lot of farming, cattle, horses, I mean, just. So when I talk about my mom and dad not having a lot of options in high school for partners, you know, watching all the good guys and the good ladies getting picked, well, Raven had probably a lot less. So she managed to find a guy and they were happily in love and they were gonna do it. They were gonna live the dream, right? Just with a capital D. They were gonna get married and have kids and the whole thing. So after high school, they got married and they moved to the big city, Grand Rapids, and they got an apartment. Raven's husband was kind of a computer nerd. He found a good job at a decent company and he was making good money, you know. This was back in the late 90s. So it didn't take long in their new apartment before Raven said, hey, I need you to put a baby inside me, okay? Let's do this. And of course, hubby was like, so they, did the thing, right? I don't think I have to explain that part, but I don't know. It was kind of weird because try, and it just, something wasn't working. It wasn't right. So they kept trying some more, of course, and it's fun when it's fun, but when it becomes like a job or a chore, when there's like an expectation. So they went to a doctor, a specialist, and they took all the tests and they said, okay, this seems okay, this seems okay. We're gonna give you this calendar. We're gonna get you on a schedule. We're gonna give you some medication, and this is an ice pack, and just keep trying, okay? This happens sometimes, it's okay, it's normal. So they did all the things, they jumped through all the hoops, medication, schedule, timing, and nothing. And now husband's starting to get a little frustrated because it's just, they're told that maybe if they try a different time of day, different position, different this and that, and so now hubby's got to wake up at 2 in the morning and he's got to do his job, and there's all this pressure, and you got to make a baby. What's wrong? So he's starting to dislike this whole event. I don't know. I guess it's like pizza, right? Even when it's cold, it's still pizza. But I guess it took them 6, maybe 9 long months. They went to the doctor one day and, oh my gosh, congratulations, you're pregnant. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is the best day, we finally did it. And of course, husband's like, whew, I don't know how much more I could do there. That was pretty tough. It's a lot of hard work. So, here's some more good news, Raven. You've got twins. And yeah, twins. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. And hubby's like, you mean 2? Like, yep. The doctor says, well, in all reality, with everything you were doing, you might have had like 12 feti. Is that the plural for fetus? Like octopuses. So these 12 fetuses, feti, they have this thing where they fight and they scratch and claw and they absorb each other, and this can do some significant damage, to the inside of a womb of a female. So Raven, congrats, you got your 2 babies, but you will in all likelihood never have kids again. You will never be able to conceive because the little egg is not going to be able to attach itself to all this rough scar tissue on the inside of your womb. Raven says, oh my gosh, it's okay. I've got 2, that's all we need. We're going to be a happy family. And the hubby's like, yeah, happy family. So bang, twins come out. Hubby's got 2 handfuls. Raven's got 2 handfuls. And I don't know, it's a little bit stressful because twice the amount of diapers, twice the amount of baby food, formula, twice the amount of shoes and shirts and pants and all the things. When hubby would come home from work, he would really just want to like relax, smoke some weed, play his video games. But what he found was Raven at the door holding 2 crying babies and vomit in her hair. And she would be like, I just need a break. I just need 5 minutes. Can you I got to go take a bath. I got all this vomit in my hair. And by the way, there's like diarrhea on the couch, so don't sit there. And there may be some diarrhea on the TV, and just don't look anywhere. I didn't get to do any of the dishes. So hubby's like, yeah, okay. As time goes on, it really starts to strain their relationship. I can't imagine, you want 1 kid really bad, and the universe decides to give you 2. Surprise! So, lots of stress and lots of frustration, Babies are hard work, and even though Raven is a full-time stay-at-home mom, there's only 1 mom with 2 babies. So if she has to go to the bathroom for a minute. So I don't know, her husband, he fell into this weird depression, this weird funk. He tried to escape, right? That's what we do. He tried the gambling thing, he tried the porn thing, he tried a lot of different habits, the alcohol, the weed, smoking cigarettes, you know, just to feel different, just to escape. And I think the thing that broke their relationship was that hubby decided one day that he wanted to try to have the sexual relations with another man. And he kept it a secret, and Raven discovered this, and she said, oh, that's it. It's over. I'm getting a divorce. So they got a divorce, and, you know, a little short time later, here comes Bishop. And I just sort of, you know, I believed her when she told me this story. And somehow, all of a sudden now, Bishop's super sperms get up in there and kerbams. Yeah. Okay, so Raven, let's just take test number 2, you know, and then we'll take test number 3. She says, Bishop, I can't. Like, I just went. It takes a little bit, okay? I need like an hour. Well, okay, how could you not have noticed, you know? Like, what about your period? Well, you know that my period has always been a little bit odd, a little bit different, sometimes non-existent since I had my twins. Well, you know, didn't you feel something? Well, I don't know, like, guys, Raven had always been a little bit fluffy, you know, and without the Bishop and her exercise, like, she had just, you know, she put on a couple extra pounds. So to her, that was not unusual. I said, well, what made you think you were pregnant? She says, well, I was laying on my stomach reading a book, you know, like normal, and I felt something kick. Oh, wow. Okay, so we need an abortion, right? Like, I don't know how it works. She says, well, it's too late for that. Like, what? What does that mean? Yeah, you can't do it. No, the baby's too far along. I didn't know there was like a rule. There was like a time limit to this thing, you know? I'm a silly guy, okay? I didn't know. Well, okay, let's do the adoption thing, right? Let's give this little, you know, let's give this kid to parents that want it, okay? Because I don't want it. I know you're a single mother of 2 babies already. Like, you're gonna have a 3rd baby? You're gonna, like, how does that increase your stock? What guy is gonna wanna jump into that? But Raven was just kinda, I don't know, she was a Taurus, and her avatar is the bull, and stubborn and defiant, yep. So sometimes she would just look at me, you know, like I was the stupidest guy on the planet, which, in all defense, I probably was, you know, I can admit it. So, I don't know, I struggled because I didn't want to, like, pay child support. I don't want this kid, so you can't keep it. Obviously, you just can't keep it, Raven. She says, well, I think I'm going to keep it. Wait, what? No, this cannot be happening. I need some more drink right now. So we tried to talk about it. I tried to tell her stuff, you know, it's just not going to work, right? Like, I'm a horrible parent. My parents, what they did to me, no, I can't be a parent to a kid. And I've seen how you parent a kid. It's not real good, okay? I don't know. I just laid out scenarios, right? I said, look, this kid is going to be by itself, you know. It's going to have 2 older brothers that are going to duct tape it to the tree in the backyard and then laugh while he's getting rained on, right? Like it's out there stuck. What happens when this kid watches its 2 older brothers go to be with their real dad, you know, twice a week and every other weekend, and that kid's got to sit there at home and say, why don't I get to go? Where's my real dad? My real dad doesn't want to visit me? Like, Raven, how are you going to do that? How are you going to answer that? This is an innocent kid, you know? It didn't ask for this. It didn't ask to be born like this. It didn't have a choice. And you have that choice. you can say, you know what? I'm just not qualified. I don't have the financial means to do this. I don't have the support. I don't have a loving partner. Like all these things, Raven, you just can't. But nope. Nope. Raven was just adamant, you know. This thing was a part of her, and it had been a part of her for months. And it was a piece of me. So there was no way she was going to give that up, you know. So we made an ultrasound appointment, and I don't know, like I felt this huge anchor, you know, kind of like not being able to leave my dog and my cat behind. I couldn't leave this unborn child behind. I just couldn't. So I didn't want to leave its side, you know. I didn't want to leave Raven. And that night, I spent the night and we had some sex, and it was a little bit awkward. I know it was a little bit weird, but I don't know. We still remembered how to do it, and it wasn't like she could get more pregnant, you know. Aw, bitches. All right, we still good? Yeah, that's nice. That is nice. So yeah, this it very much broke my problem-solving mind, you know? Like if I was in one of my role-playing games and this was this really difficult riddle, you know? How could I stop this from happening? Was there like a magical spell or like an assassin or an antidote or a potion, you know, a potion of unpregnancy? What could I do? So I don't know. I'd go to work and I would drive around and I would think all day, every day, just think, come on, Bishop, come up with something, right? There's got to be something you can do. And then I'd come back to Raven's house after work and I would have this fresh argument and I would try some more, and it just didn't work. Raven there was nothing I could say, you know? To her, this was her miracle baby. This was the one that was never supposed to happen. So, yeah, I would say stuff like, you mean you're just gonna trap this innocent child here in this environment, you know, and you're gonna tell it that its dad doesn't want to come see it, you know, that it was not a wanted child? Like, how cruel is that? Raven, you're being so cruel, you know? This kid didn't ask for that, didn't ask for a mother like you. Raven and we'd never really had a disagreement before, you know? I don't think we ever really had to. This time, it just felt so important, you know? I was extremely determined to win this argument. It just had to happen. It could be no other way. I think the big reason why I never wanted to have kids was because I saw how my mom and my dad treated each other, or more specifically, I saw how my dad treated my mom. And it wasn't good. Like my dad, I'd love to ask him why. I'd love to know the story, you know, how did he become such a master manipulator? Or maybe he wasn't all that great at the manipulation thing. Maybe my mom was just kind of a gullible, maybe she was a pushover. I don't know. I remember the agony of it all, the torture, because when my dad didn't get what he wanted, he seemed to have just the right card to play. He knew just how to twist the knife. So my mom would catch him cheating again, and she would say, you know what, it's time to go. It's over. My dad would say, okay, I need like 3 months, you know, to save up some money, because I don't have any money. I can't leave. We can't do this. Like 3 months, it'll be okay. I'll save up some money and then I'll go. So the 3 months would go by. My mom would sleep, you know, in the living room. She wouldn't sleep in the same bed as him. She'd sleep upstairs with us kids. And somehow my dad, in 3 months, he would change her mind, you know. He would bribe her and say, I'll be the best father ever. I'll be the best husband ever. I'll never do this again. And then, of course, it would happen again. And then another 3 months, just, okay, you know, let's just... So 3 months would go by, and my dad would say, well, we had to buy that new microwave. That was your fault. You said we needed a new microwave, so I no longer have the 3 months' money that I saved up, you know. My mom, I don't know, every time, my dad would have something worse, something different, you know, a different tactic. So I remember when it got real close to the end, my dad would say, you can't do this. You're going to devastate the kids, you know, you're going to ruin their lives. And my mom, she'd had enough of it, you know, it was time. So my dad looked at her and said, well, I'm going to tell the kids that you're taking away their father, you know, that you don't want me here anymore. So my dad came to us and he said, Bishop, you know, your mother doesn't want you to have your father anymore. She doesn't want me to live here anymore. She wants to kick me out. It's all her fault. And I didn't know what to do with it. You know, I'm just a kid, right? My dad would say stuff like, if I leave, I've got all the money. I've got the job. Your mom, she's not going to be able to afford to buy you guys food, you know? You're not going to have any food. Bishop, how can she pay the electric bill or the heating bill? Like, no electricity means no video games, Bishop. Is that what you want? Well, of course no. No, Dad, that's not what I want. My dad would say, if I take the family van, you guys aren't going to have a vehicle. You're going to have to walk everywhere. So I would go to my mom and I would say, Mom, what's up with this? Like, how can this be? We're not going to have food. We're not going to have electricity. Mom, you got to change, Mom. You just got to change. And of course, my mom wouldn't want to talk about it, because that was, you know, that was how she did things. So going through that trauma, I'd never forgotten it. And I tried my best to never have a kid because I didn't want to put them through that, you know. That was my association. So those words, Mom, you just got to change, they came back to haunt me because I was having this argument with Raven and I really needed to win. So I was doing all the same manipulation, all the same tactics, pretty much. At least in my mind I was. And saying, Raven, you just got to change. You can't. No, you just got to change. And oh my gosh, you guys. Pure torture. So one day we go to the hospital and Rave's going to have an ultrasound. She lays down on a little bed thing, and the nurse there, she puts the cream on her big old belly. And then she takes her little wand and she starts to take the little zooms, and, you know, she does her thing, right? So they're talking, they're making chit chat, and the nurse is taking some measurements. You know, she says you're this far along and the baby's head is this big, and, you know. Of course, Raven, she's all about this, right? She loved being a mother. I don't know. The nurse pauses at one particular section and she says, Raven, do you want to know the sex of your baby, the gender? And Rave says, oh no, I've got 2 sons already. I've always dreamed of having a little baby girl, so I'm real hopeful. But from where I'm sitting, I can kind of see over the nurse's shoulder, and I can see the screen that she's looking at, and I can see this little white pointer finger indicating something that, you know, to me, I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, Bishop, that's got to be your kid. Like, he's got this giant little, I mean, I know it's little because he's an unborn baby, but on the screen, it's pretty giant looking, you know. So that has to be my kid. How do I deny that, right? So on the drive home, I'm still frustrated. I don't know. I just don't know what to do at this point, you know? I'm so frustrated and I'm so stuck. And Raven said something sharp, like she always does. I mumbled under my breath, it's not a girl. Raven got pretty silent after that. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I was stressed. It was difficult. I was getting really distracted at my job. So driving around, I would have close calls, almost hit this, almost crash into that. There's a pedestrian I didn't see, bounce a curb here or there, you know. I remember going into this post office one day. It was like any other day. I'd been doing this for quite some time. And I carried my bundle of boxes and packages and I dropped them in the spot, and I sort of looked over my shoulder at my guy, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna scribble your name. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick." So one of his coworkers or his boss must have overheard this. He called up my boss and he says, "Hey, Bishop, he forged a signature, you know? This is a big no-no. You don't forge a signature, especially at the United States Post Office." So when I got back from my delivery route that day, my boss called me into the office, sat me down. "Bishop, we're sorry. This is non-negotiable. You're fired. You're terminated." And I was kind of crushed, you know. I really liked that job. This was only like the second time I'd ever been fired, but this was the end of my 19th job overall. And I went to Raven and I told her what happened, and she was like, "Well, it's okay. You'll just get another job." I was like, "Yeah, but I really like that job, you know." Things got kind of stressful. Less money means less green. Less green means more arguments. And the pressure cooker, I can't describe this, guys. The pressure cooker was so bad. I didn't know what to do, you know? Lost my job. My girlfriend, who wasn't really my girlfriend, was gonna have my kid regardless of what I did or said. It felt like such a no-win situation, you know? Then the nightmare started, and I would have dreams that I would be sitting with Raven's twins, and I would scoop one of them up, bring them upstairs to the bathtub, tell them it's bath time. I would take their shirt off, and then I would take a big ugly knife and I would write letters into their chest in blood, in knife, that said, "Not my child, not my kid." And this kid would scream and yell, and I would grab him by the throat and I would hold him underwater in the bathtub until he stopped screaming. And then I would go back downstairs and grab the second kid and do the same thing. Not my kid. I'd have dreams where I would take this same knife and I would stab it into Raven's belly, and I would pull out this unborn fetus, you know, my kid, and this fetus would open its eyes and look right at me and say, "Why, Daddy, why?" And I would stab it repeatedly over and over, and I would scream and it would scream. I don't know, dreams of like setting the whole building on fire, you know, watching us all burn and just screaming at the same time, and taking this knife and just sticking it into my eyes, and both eyes, until I just wake up in the middle of the night just screaming, you know. I'm just drenched in sweat. There's a big old puddle beneath me. And sometimes Raven would wake up screaming right beside me. And, you know, sometimes even her sons would scream. It was like everybody's mind was connected, you know. We were all in the same nightmare. And I'd stop sleeping, because every time I'd wake up and Raven was still right next to me, it just broke me. It just completely broke my mind, you know? And I didn't know what to do about it. No amount of alcohol or green seemed to fix it. And it didn't stop, you know? So, no job, kid on the way, nightmares, Raven, non-negotiable. It was probably one of the most difficult times of my life. Like, I know being homeless, you know, broken heart from Amanda and Mandy and Kathy when she passed away. But this was like a whole different scale, you guys. Like, it's windy again. like this just wasn't supposed to happen, you know? Like we were breaking up. We were like gonna never see each other again. So how could this possibly be happening? But yeah, in the back of my mind, that was the only solution where Bishop wins, is that I unalive my unborn child, I unalive Raven if I have to, I unalive her twins, I unalive myself. It was pretty impossible because it felt like this weird ball of rubber bands that were all knotted, you know. I would try to cut one of the rubber bands and it would be stuck to the rest. It was a giant knot. I found myself just looking at her twins a little bit differently, you know, wondering if they were going to be a part of my life. It did not compute, you know. So I think I sort of realized a thing at some point, you know. If I were to take Raven away from her twins, it would be like they had lost their mother. And guys, no kid should have to lose their mother. I lost my father. I feel like I lost my mother at the same time. Maybe it was, I don't know, it was messy. But I didn't want to be that guy that like took away a kid's mother, certainly not two kids' mothers. And then I looked further, and if I had unalived Raven and then both of her twins, well, now their real dad has lost two sons. And just like losing a parent, I don't believe any parent should have to lose their kid. So I just looked at what happens if I unalive myself. Well, then my mom and my dad, who are still alive, no matter how I did this, no matter how I tried to slice it, somebody was going to lose a parent, you know, or lose a kid. If my kid was born and he had no father, so Bishop, we're sorry this happened, but man, there is no solution here that works. Like absolutely no solution. So I don't know. I remember we used to smoke the green. We came to this agreement, I don't know how, but Raven was not allowed to smoke cigarettes because that's bad. Like I could smoke cigarettes, and the secondhand smoke that her kids were always exposed to, like the whole place always smelled like cigarettes. We only smoked in the basement, but Raven was not allowed to drink any alcohol, whereas I could have a beer here or there, something hard if I needed it. And if we were going to smoke the green, Raven was not allowed to cough, because that's bad. Coughing hurts the baby. Don't ask me how we came up with these rules. I think we were probably high at the time. But you know, that's what we were good at. Raven and I were always good at being high and having sex. So, yeah. Christmas time came, 2002, and it was not it was not a wonderful Christmas. Raven was getting child support from her ex-hubby, but it wasn't a lot, you know. It was maybe enough to pay the bills. And I watched as her twin sons would smile and laugh, and you know, even if their presents were from the dollar store, they were just happy. And I couldn't relate. I don't know, I was in such a bad place that to see Christmas like this with this mother and these two kids who were just trying to be happy, just trying to be alive, you know, enjoy the things that they did have. Because to me, that was, I didn't know what to do with that, you know. And then of course, New Year's 2003. Yay! I watched Raven's belly get bigger and bigger. Oh my gosh, it was the biggest ticking time bomb, you know. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. There was a lot of crying, a lot of begging, pleading, everything I could do. I even prayed to God, and that doesn't happen very often. I think at some point though, I just realized, I said, you know what, Raven, if you want to keep my kid, if you're going to keep my kid, then you need to keep me too. And you and I are going to try to be the best possible parents. You know, we're going to do this. We're going to do this for real. And there'll never be any divorce, okay? That's my thing, is we just cannot get divorced. So this kid will belong to us, and I will try to love it, and I will try to be my best, and I will hope that you can try to be your best. And then I added one other part, you know. I said, I'm going to love your sons as much as if they were my own. And Raven's normally stoic face, her plain, she looked at me and she said, okay. And I'm not sure what was the selling point there or what finally convinced her, but maybe it was all the nightmares. I honestly don't know, you know. So one night, must have been around January, February, I forget. Time gets to be kind of blurry sometimes. We sat in her basement. We took some puffs from her bubbly. And I started throwing out names ideas, you know. The kid's got to have a name. And if I'm going to have a kid, if the bishop's going to have one and only kid in his whole lifetime, this name, it better be special. Raven says, well, I like Gus. What? Yeah, Gus. It's nice, it's clean, it's simple, it's G-U-S. No. My kid's not gonna be named Gus. So I'm throwing out ideas, you know. I've got some weird ones. I go through all the list, the Marvel superheroes that I grew up with. Both Raven and I were big Star Wars fans, so you got Hans and Luke and, you know, Chewbacca. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so how about the kids from the Goonies? Or how about Indiana Jones? You know, Karate Kid, there's like Mr. Miyagi, and there's like Gizmo from Gremlins, Mogwai. And then I started going through like the Children of the Corn, you know, the horror shows. There's like Malachi and Isaac and I don't know, just weird ones, right? Raven and I used to play this video game. It was called Diablo 2. Back in the day, if you had a computer and your partner had a computer, you could sit in the same basement and you could join in the same world and you could go kill monsters together, you know? It was awesome. Some of the names were like Mephisto, Andariel, you know, Lilith. And Raven's like, we're not calling our kid Mephisto. We're just not. I'm like, okay, but we're not calling him Gus either. How about like Never Ending Story, right? You got Atreyu, Falcor, Bastion. I mean, come on, Bastion's a great name for a kid, isn't it? Then I kind of get this weird remembering. I watched a horror movie one time. It had Christopher Walken, the old guy. And this movie was called Prophecy. You know, real angels and demons stuff, you know. But there were some cool names in there, right? Lucifer, Zophael, Gabriel. And all of a sudden Raven paused. And she kind of looked at me weird. And I said, what? Gabriel? She says, yeah, that's kind of cool. Gabriel, the archangel of mankind, Gabriel. Flame and sword, Gabriel? That's, really? She says, yeah, it's kind of cool. Okay, I'm okay with that. Okay, so little complication, Rave. This kid, because you and I aren't married, this kid's gonna have your last name. And technically, it's not even your last name, it's the last name of your previous husband because you kept his name so that you could share your last name with your twin sons. So, how's that gonna work? I don't know. Well, Raven, like, I don't know how to feel about that. You know, a name is just a name. And now that we've given this kid a name, I guess it means a lot more to me all of a sudden. All of a sudden it does. So we had to fight back and forth on this first name, and you're gonna give him automatically his third name. I think I should be able to do the second, right? The middle name? Raven says, okay. Sometimes it was just that easy. We'd fight and fight about the stupidest stuff for days, and then other times Raven would be like, yeah, okay. So I'm thinking back, you know, my family, I don't know, like I don't have any family names that I care about. Like I tried to leave my family a couple times, once with Florida, once with Ohio. I don't really have any attachment to my last name. But if I think way back, my grandfather, the one that died on me when I was only a kid, the one that used to sit and watch the trains go by with me, my grandfather, you know, showed me the bunnies, took me on my first bus ride ever. His name was Marvin. And I think my dad's middle name was Marvin also. I wasn't that lucky. I didn't get the middle name Marvin. So I said to Raven, you know what? My family name is Marvin. Gabriel Marvin. Huh. When you attach a name to something, even if it's just a rock, even if it's a piece of fence, you know, like I'm gonna name this Fancy. Now all of a sudden it has this importance. So I didn't have a job for most of that winter. My job to me was taking care of Raven. I would do everything I could. I would do the dishes, I would take out the trash, I would take care of her twin sons as if they were my own, which, you know, I was pretty good with kids. Everything I could to help her, you know? And yeah, her belly kept getting bigger and bigger. We went to the doctor one time. I don't know, we were always going to the doctor. It was like a regular thing, you know? So I asked the doc, I said, hey, how does this DNA test work, you know? Can we do a DNA test like right now? The doc says, well, no, it's usually best if you wait until the baby is born. If you try to do it now while the baby is still inside the mother, it can cause complications, damage. It's not good. You really gotta wait, Bishop. And I thought, okay, I guess, like, you know, even if it wasn't my kid, I didn't want to damage somebody else's kid. You know, I guess I can wait. So the doc says, you know, Raven, you're getting pretty big. Raven says, yep. The doc says, so with your previous pregnancy, you had twins and they were somewhat smaller. This baby, it's pretty big. I'm going to recommend a C-section. Raven kind of looked at me and she was like, oh, thanks, Bishop. You put a ginormous baby inside of me. And I was like, I didn't know. I didn't try. The doc says, well, we're looking at this day right here. This is when we're going to perform your C-section. It's March 14th. I did some quick mental math because I was on top of it that day. And I was like, wait, doc, March 14th, you said? That's going to make him a Pisces? No, doc, no. I can't have a Pisces for a son, okay? I just can't. Is there any way we can like, can we leave this biscuit in the oven for like a little longer? Let's say a week, you know? A week later, March 21st, he can be an Aries, like his old man, you know, like his father. So the doctor looked at me, and then he looked at Raven, and Raven just kind of rolled her eyes, you know. And then he looked at me again, and he was like, yeah, okay. March 21st, 7 a.m. Yes, I did like this little fist pump because you know what? My victories were few and far between, but when I did get a little victory, I'm not having a Pisces. No. So we circled the day on the calendar and oh my gosh, you guys, like the ticking time bomb is bad when you don't know it's coming, you just feel it's coming, but when you have a particular countdown, when you have the actual day, you can see the fuse is lit, it's burning, it's counting down. Here's when the destruction is gonna happen. I had already resigned to my fate. I already figured, you know what, there's nothing I can do. This is just what's happening. But that time bomb, hard to escape that, you know? When the day came, I guess it was the night before. I couldn't sleep. Raven said she couldn't sleep. We stayed up all night. There was some laughter, some crying. It was kind of almost like the night 9 months ago when we had said this was our last night together, you know? I told Raven I couldn't be there. I couldn't be in the room. I didn't even want to be in the hospital because after all these dreams of the knife in Raven's belly and her blood, guys, I could not do that in real life. I could not watch as some doctor cuts. I could not watch her blood spill out. I couldn't watch him pull a baby out. I just said, Raven, I'm sorry. This is impossible for me. I can't do it. She said, Bishop, you're such a turd. Like, you can't even be there for me when I need you, when your child needs you. No. Nope. I am so sorry. This is an impossibility. I will freak out. I will just freak out, and I will think I'm dreaming, and bad stuff will happen. So the best thing I can do, just not go. So I brought her to the hospital. I drove her. I carried her little overnight bag. I found a wheelchair. I pushed her in. I helped her sign in. I did everything I could until they pushed her away. And then I whispered a quick, I love you. On the drive home, I cried. Oh my gosh, I cried. It was the first day of spring. It was about to be my first and only son's birthday for now and forever. Like, I was about to be a whole different Bishop. Yeah. Guys, I have found it extremely fascinating to look back at my life and to see how little tiny actions turned into these big, huge effects, consequences. I don't know what to call them. There's this thing, it's called the butterfly effect, where this tiny little butterfly lands on a flower, and when it leaves, it flaps its wings. And this little tiny movement of air suddenly is joined by other movements of air, and after a bit, this thing grows. This little butterfly wing, it turns into a breeze, and the breeze is joined by other breezes, and they become a gust, and then all of a sudden they're a full-blown wind, and oh my gosh, this wind on the other side of the continent, it turned into like a tornado or a hurricane. There's this big tsunami, all because this one little butterfly flapped its wings. I think this is such a cool idea. One stone's throw makes an earthquake. But I look back and I see these things. My friend Nick, who I worked with, who I lived with, Barb's boyfriend Nick, he and I were really close for a while. He went on, many years later, he left Barb and he found a new wife. He had a couple kids. I think it took him about 10 years, but he started his own swimming pool business. And his swimming pool business did rather well. Lots of bling bling, lots of money, very successful. He was able to buy a big house and vehicles, and he raised his two sons, or his two kids, and, provided for his wife, all because of this swimming pool business. And I look back and I'm like, how did Nick learn how to do the swimming pool thing? Well, once upon a time, he had a girlfriend named Barb, and Barb happened to have a swimming pool right in her backyard. So if it wasn't for that swimming pool in that backyard, Nick would have never gone out there, looked at the thing, said, oh my gosh, this is a swamp. How can I fix it? He would never have gone down the street to the swimming pool store where he first got his job as a swimming pool guy. So, I don't know, was it Nick falling in love with Barb? That was the butterfly? Or was it Bishop helping out Barb and helping her unlock this trust fund so that she would eventually buy this house with this swimming pool? It wasn't a priority of Barb's. She didn't care if it had a swimming pool or not. Or do we go back even further to that phone call, that one June, where Barb said, you know what, maybe I'll call Bishop. I'll talk to him. It was probably on a whim, She just picked up the phone. She dialed my number. And what if that day in June, what if I would have not answered that phone call? What if I just didn't pick up, didn't talk to Barb, didn't hear about her story, about how her mom had passed? Or what if I had just said to myself, you know, Barb will figure it out. She's a smart girl. And I'm staying here in Columbus. Tiny little decisions. Whoa, the wind almost blew my camera right over. Whew, that was close. We're okay. Sorry, guys. I know that was a little scary. You know, and then I look at Barb and her mother, and her mother's in heaven, or she's up there in the clouds, and one day I'm gonna have to stand before her, and she's gonna say, Bishop, you helped my daughter. You helped her access this money that I had locked away specifically so she could not blow it. Yes, Barb's mom, I know. I know. Barb later went on to spend a lot of this money on the crack. So, is Barb's mom going to thank me? Tell me that I did good for her daughter? Or is she going to curse me? I don't know. Someday I'll have to find out. I look at this time when Raven found out that my girlfriend Kim had cheated on me, because that was kind of the moment, that was the butterfly where it pushed Raven and I together, you know? Like, if Raven had never said anything, her and I would not have gotten as close as we did. I would still have been with Kim. Who knows what would have happened? And it's kind of weird for me to think, what if I could just appear one day, you know, as a ghost or as a phantom? What if I could stand in Rave's kitchen and look her in the eye and say, you know what? If you tell Bishop that his girlfriend, she cheated on him, he's gonna put a baby inside of you. Raven's jaw would have hung open, her eyes would have gotten real big. She would have looked down at her hands and then put her hands on her belly. And she would have looked at me, a phantom, and said, no fucking way. No fucking way. But that's the thing, you guys. It's this tiny little thing. So you combine this tiny butterfly effect with this paranoia that a bomb's gonna go off and have super destructive events happen to you in your life. Is it a wonder we're all crazy? Are we all crazy? I feel crazy, especially when I do these videos. You guys, it's been fun. It's not quite as cold. I'm sorry about the wind. Spring. I'll see you next time. I love you all. Share your story. Here's me grabbing you by the shoulders. I'm shaking you. Share your story, okay? Bye.